My old Buell S2 Thunderbolt has developed an electrical problem. After I ride it for a while and it warms up, the electrical seems to cut in and out. So here I'm trying to simulate the problem by blowing a heat gun under the bodywork right at the main circuit breaker that I suspect is the problem. Eventually the tachometer starts jumping around and the backlights, the gauges flicker, even the headlight flickers. And if I were riding it, you could hear the engine cutting in and out, the ignition cutting in and out. So it's everything electrical cuts in and out. Here I'm going to confirm, now that it's doing it, that's the problem by blowing cold air now on the circuit breaker and see if when it cools off, the problem goes away. If you watch the headlight, it starts going steady here in a sec when I cool the circuit breaker down. So that's the problem. So it's got to come out. So to tear the bodywork off the bike, take the battery out so we can get at the circuit breakers. And it's the main circuit breaker. There's 4 in there. There's lights, accessories, ignition, but they're all fed off the main. The main in the Buell is a 30 amp circuit. If you have a Sportster, it might be a 50 amp circuit breaker, but it's the same concept. If you've got one of these old S2s, it's easy to take the bodywork off. You know it's just these Phillips screws and then the pieces come off. There's a wiring harness on the tail for the tail lights. And then when you're taking the battery out, always take the negative terminal off first, the negative cables off the battery first. And the battery strap, the battery cover. And with the negative side detached, it's a lot safer to remove the positive side of the battery. You don't have to worry about bumping your screwdriver against the bike and shorting something. Get that out of the way, then we'll be able to see the circuit breakers. There they are, right down there. There's 4 of them. We're going for the lower right one. That's the main. And it's got 2 terminals. The one just goes to a battery lead, so we don't have to take that off till it's out of the bike. We do need to take this top screw or nut off. And it's got a washer and then 2 wires going to it. And we should be able to just pop the circuit breaker out of there. It's just snapped into a little case. So I'm just going to put a screwdriver behind it and pry. And it'll pop right out. And we'll look at it up on the bench. There it is. Still got the battery lead on it, so we'll need to take that off, swap it over to the new one. There's the new one in a bag. Again, your part number might be different for a Sportster, but the same concept applies. 2 terminals, a silver colored one and a copper colored one. The battery lead goes on the copper colored one. Go ahead and move that over up here on the bench where it's easier. And we'll put it back in the bike. Again, it just snaps into that spring case. We just push real hard and push it in until it goes snap. And we hook the wires back up. So the way this circuit breaker works is if there's an electrical overload, it opens. And this one's failing, the old one was failing, and that if it would get hot, it would open. But then the vibration of the bike would shake it and it would close again. So going down the road, it would open, close, open, close. I rode all the way home from an hour away with the engine sputtering, the headlight blinking, and the gauges flickering around. I was lucky to get home, I guess. So once you get it back in, all wired back up, we put the battery back in, positive cable first. Then I put the battery cover and strap on, then the negative cable. We'll give it a test start, make sure it's working before we put the bodywork on. It all works. Right on.